shining as the self in all beings. By the immense grace of the self manifest as Ramana, we have gathered for today's satsang. It is also a special day, the 17th of July. On the 17th of July 1896, Bhagavan attained enlightenment at Madurai. So, since our satsang is falling even on the same date, we will be celebrating the day of Bhagavan's enlightenment. We celebrated it in the morning with the Tamil Mugam along with the Ramana Kendra Madurai. And this is Ramana Maharshi's125th celebration. We begin with the prayer by Sapna Ganesh and chanting of Muktaka trayam by Nandakumarji.
Dakshinamurti Sarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Ramanacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Vande Guru Paramparam Vande Guru Paramparam Shuklam Bharadaram Vishnum Sheshivarnam Chaturbhujam Prasannavadanam Dhyayet Sarva Vignopashantaye Angikam Bhuvanam Yasya Vachikam Sarva Vangmayam Aharyam Chandrataradi Tam Namas Satvikam Shivam Om Namo Bhagavate Shri Ramanaya. Namo Ramana to everyone.
Ekam aksharam hrudi nirantaram bhasate swayam likyate katham. हृदय कुहर मध्ये केवलं ब्रह्म मात्रम् यहमहमिति साक्षात् आत्मरूपेण भाति हृदि विषमनसा स्वं चिन्वता मज्जता वा अनचलनरूढा आत्मनिष्ठो भवत्वम्. देहं मृण्मयवत् जडात्मकम् अहं बुद्धिर्न तस्यास्त्यतो नाहं तत्तद्भावशुक्तिसमये सिद्धात्मसद्भावतः. ओहं भावयुतः कुतो वदधिया दृष्टात्मनिष्ठात्मना सोऽहं स्फूर्तितया अरुणाचलशिवः पूर्णो विभाति स्वयं नमो
Namo Ramana. We continue the satsang with chanting of verses from Bhagavan's Upadesa Saram. Because why do we celebrate Bhagavan's enlightenment? We celebrate Bhagavan's enlightenment as it is the greatest blessing to the entire universe. It is the purpose for which Bhagavan has taken the human form, and it is the path breaker to give us the method of self-enquiry. And this Bhagavan has encapsulated in various works of his. One of the most important among these works is the Upadesa Saram, which is celebrated as the essence of the Vedas. Jagadishwara Shastri has written a commentary on this Upadesa Saram, a detailed commentary, which is entitled Tattva Bodhini, and that has been translated into English by G. Kameshwar and published by our center, wherein the subtitle that is given to the work is Essence of the Vedas. So Bhagavan has come to give us the essence, and we will be listening to the chanting of few verses from Upadesa Saram by Revathi Sankar.
Om Namo Bhagavate Shri Ramanaya. Karturajnaya prapyate phalam karma kim param karma tajjadam kritimaho dadhau patana karanam phalamashashvatam gati nirodhakam ishvararpitam nechaya kritam चित्तशोधकं मुक्तिसाधकं कायवाङ्मनः कार्यमुत्तमं पूजनं जपश्चिन्तनं क्रमात् जगत ईषधीयुक्तसेवनम् अष्टमूर्तिभृद्देवपूजनम् उत्तमस्तवादुच्चमन्दतः चित्तजं जप ध्यानमुत्तमम् आज्यधारया स्रोतसा समम् सरलचिन्तनं विरलतः परं भेदभावनात् सोऽहमित्यसौ भावनाविदा पावनीमता भावशून्यसद्भावसुस्थितिः भावना बलात् भक्तिरुत्तमा हृत्स्थले मनः स्वस्थता क्रिया भक्तियोगबोधाश्च निश्चितम्. नमो रमण. Okay, you're on mute, Sapna.
Namo Ramana. We go on to the Ramananjali Sangeetam offerings as part of today's celebrations. We will be having two compositions. The first one, presented by Radha and Vallabh, is a Telugu translation of Sadhu Swami's song. Today, we are celebrating Bhagavan. We are celebrating his enlightenment. How is it that we are able to celebrate his enlightenment? It is because he has come into our lives. And we can never understand, as he himself says of Arunachala, Udiyil vaazhum makkal enpaal udiyam yadini petrar. How come you came to me? Out of all creatures in this world, what did you gain by choosing me? And Sadhu Swami also gives that same gist in his composition, which is translated into Telugu. And when I was thinking about Bhagavan, when I was meditating about Bhagavan once when we were preparing for our English production, I tried to think of Bhagavan's entry into my life. And it struck me that I cannot place a date or time for Bhagavan's entry into my life. Such is His grace. We say that He has entered our lives, that He has chosen us, but really we understand when we look at His enlightenment, we understand that He is the very self. And therefore, He has been with us, not just from the beginning of this birth, but from before time, if such a thing is there. And He is the one who's pervading everything. That is what His jnana signifies. So that will be presented by Pratibha Sundaresh.
Namo Ramana to all. This is a composition by Sadhu Swami, and the translation in Telugu is by J.H. Bhimacharya, and the music is by Sri H.K. Narayana. జ్ఞానం ధ్యానం సాధనం ఒకటి లేని నాకు జ్ఞానం ధ్యానం సాధనం ఒకటి లేని నాకు రమణ ఎట్లు దొరకితివి కారణమేమో రమణ ఎట్లు దొరకితివి కారణమేమో జ్ఞానం ధ్యానం సాధనం ఒకటి లేని నాకు రమణ ఎట్లు దొరకితివి కారణమేమో దేవావళి వేదావళి వెదకినా దొరకని దేవావళి వేదావళి వెదకినా దొరకని దేవుడీవు శ్రీరమణ జపతపములకు దేవుడీవు శ్రీరమణ జపతపములకు చిక్కిదవా రమణ జ్ఞానం ధ్యానం సాధనం ఒకటి లేని నాకు రమణ ఎట్లు దొరకితివి కారణమేమో వీధులందు తిరుగుచున్న ఈ పామర జీవుని వీధులందు తిరుగుచున్న ఈ పామర జీవుని ఉద్ధరించిన రమణ పట్టితి శ్రీపాదం ఉద్ధరించిన రమణ పట్టితి శ్రీపాదం దాటితి భవసాగరం జ్ఞానం ధ్యానం సాధనం ఒకటి లేని నాకు రమణ ఎట్లు దొరకితివి కారణమేమో పూర్వ పుణ్యం కాదు నేటి తపము కాదు పూర్వ పుణ్యం కాదు నేటి తపము కాదు నీ కరుణామృతమే నన్ను బ్రోచినది నీ కరుణామృతమే నన్ను బ్రోచినది నాకిక జననం లేదు జ్ఞానం ధ్యానం సాధనం ఒకటి లేని నాకు రమణ ఎట్లు దొరకితివి కారణమేమో తల్లి తండ్రి నీవేనయ్యా సద్గురు రమణ తల్లి తండ్రి నీవేనయ్యా సద్గురు రమణ ఆత్మ విచారం తెలిపి లో చూపు ఇచ్చితివి ఆత్మ విచారం తెలిపి లో చూపు ఇచ్చితివి నీలో చేచితివి జ్ఞానం ధ్యానం సాధనం ఒకటి లేని నాకు రమణ ఎట్లు దొరకితివి కారణమేమో జ్ఞానం ధ్యానం సాధనం ఒకటి లేని నాకు రమణ ఎట్లు దొరకితివి కారణమేమో రమణ ఎట్లు దొరకితివి కారణమేమో నమో రమణ
Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. This is an English song. The lyrics by Dr. Sharada Natarajan and music by Raghu Mama. I cannot remember the day we first met, for I have known you, beloved Ramana. Ever since I have been, ever since I have been, I cannot remember the day we first met. For I have known you, beloved Ramana. Ever since I have been, ever since I have been. Indeed, it is only through you that I have known myself. Indeed, it is only through you that I have known myself. By you that day dawns, by you that night sets, by you the day dawns, by you that night sets. Beloved, I meet you time and again in a sudden glimpse of your magic glance, in a shared smile, a bubbling song, in laughter and tears, in hopes and fears, in every heartbeat of mine. I cannot remember the day we first met. For I have known you, beloved Ramana. Ever since I have been, ever since I have been. Even when I have wantonly turned away from you, I have felt your presence, your gaze upon me, my friend. Even when I have wantonly turned away from you, I have felt your presence, your gaze upon me, my friend. Beloved, I meet you time and again in a sudden glimpse of your magic glance, in the blue skies, the white clouds, in blossoming trees and coming of rain, and every heartbeat of mine. I cannot remember the day we first met, for I have known you, beloved Ramana. Ever since I have been, ever since I have been. I cannot remember the day we first met, for I have known you, beloved Ramana. Ever since I have been, ever since I have been. Namo Ramana.
Namo Ramana. We find him everywhere and we find him as our beloved because he is the very self. It is said in the Vedas, it is said in the scriptures that the knower of the self becomes verily the self. That's why Bhagavan, when asked who he is, he says he is the self, shining in the hearts of all beings. And C.N. Shastri, a devotee from Karnataka, he was drawn to Bhagavan, his life was transformed, he was an agnostic, but when he went into Bhagavan's presence, when he came to know about him, his life was transformed and he became a devotee of Bhagavan and he composed several compositions on Bhagavan. He would sing, he was a great singer, he was in the All India Radio and he has composed this song which Savithri Krishnan has chosen specially for today because C.N. Shastri describes the enlightenment of Bhagavan in this song and Savithri will be rendering this song along with Jaisriram Krishna.
योगी रमण परम गुरुवे योगी रमण परम गुरुवे त्यागी योगी सुख शांति नीने भोगिय हृदय धीराचिपे नीने त्यागी योगी सुख शांति नीने भोगिय हृदय धीराचिपे नीने त्याग भोग सुख दातनु नीने त्याग भोग सुख दातनु नीने बागिद शरणर निकायो योगी रमण परम गुरुवे योगी रमण परम गुरुवे बालकनागिरे कालन नोडी छलದಿ मनव बंधन ಮಾಡಿ ಬಾಲಕನಾಗಿರೆ ಕಾಲನ ನೋಡಿ ಛಲದಿ ಮನವ ಬಂಧನ ಮಾಡಿ ಹಲವು ಜನ್ಮದ ಭ್ರಾಂತಿ ನೀಗಿ ಹಲವು ಜನ್ಮದ ಭ್ರಾಂತಿ ನೀಗಿ ಕಾಲನ ಲೀಲೆಯ ನೀಗಲಿದೆ ಯೋಗಿ ರಮಣ ಪರಮ ಗುರುವೇ ಯೋಗಿ ರಮಣ ಪರಮ ಗುರುವೇ ನಾನಾರೆಂಬುದ ತಿಳಿದವ ನೀನೆ ನಾನೆನ್ನುವ ಆತ್ಮನು ನೀನೆ ನಾನ ಎಂಬುದು ತಿಳಿದವ ನೀನೆ ನಾನೆಂಬುವ ಆತ್ಮನು ನೀನೆ ಜನನ ಬಂಧನ ಅತೀತ ನೀನೆ ಜನನ ಬಂಧನ ಅತೀತ ನೀನೆ ನಿನ್ನ ಭಕ್ತರ ಪೊರೆ ಗುರುವೋ ನಿನ್ನ ಭಕ್ತರ ಪೊರೆ ಗುರುವೋ 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 ಓಂ ನಮೋ ಭಗವತೆ ಶ್ರೀರಾಮ.
Akka, you are on mute.
I had said that we thank Savithri for setting up a beautiful decoration. Savithri, would you just put your video on? She has set up a decoration also, background, which is special for this occasion of the picture, the youngest picture of Bhagavan that we have. And this picture is what we find in that room where Bhagavan got the enlightenment, in the Madurai room. So thank you to Savithri for that as well. And we go on in this sharing today. We were listening to Nandakumarji's reading of the account of Master Nomi, which we are looking forward to hearing the second part of the sharing by Nandakumarji and the reading.
Namo Ramana. Happy Enlightenment Day celebrations to all. As is not unusual with Bhagavan, we find the account by Nome, Master Nome here, recounting Bhagavan's teaching of Atma Vicharam emanating from his enlightenment experience. So we continue to read from Fresh Discoveries, Western Seekers on Sri Ramana Maharshi, a compilation by our founder president, Sri A.R. Natarajanji. We find that Master Nome had talked about silence, grace, wisdom of Bhagavan, and how the life account of Bhagavan is far more important than the life account of any of us. So we pick up this thread where we left off. The joy of the disciple consists in his unimportance and non-existence, while the sole existence and all importance of his Guru is his non-dual bliss. Sometimes one hears a seeker ask if there is a stage when the Guru is no longer necessary. The answer is that a stage is reached when the disciple is no longer necessary. Hearing a story is captivating for the mind. If the story is endowed with wisdom, such as are the stories told by Vasishta and the episodes related in the Upanishads, and of course, the sublime story of our Guru, the Maharishi, the mind is led by the story beyond all stories. It is just as when a decoy deer has been displayed to capture the deer, the wild deer. Any story about a disciple or a devotee serves only to further glorify the wondrous Guru. We do not focus upon the transitory, illusory body of the disciple or devotee, or upon the dreamlike illusions of the events and the objects depicted in the story, or upon the unreal personality and individuality of him or her. Rather, we find ourselves reveling in the liberating presence of the Guru, our Bhagavan, immersed in his sweet grace, with each story being in some way our own. Whenever I am asked to give some story that pertains in the least to my life, there is the distinct feeling that there is nothing to be said. This is so because, firstly, all the events, that is, all the events in any of our lives, the author feels, all the events can be told from ever so many perspectives. Secondly, because the events themselves are unreal. And thirdly, as disciples and devotees, our only real story is our dissolution in and merger with him, like a river when it joins the ocean. Fourthly, there is truly no one born, living, or dying about whom to say anything, the unreal adventures of a phantom man in the city of the clouds. Moreover, once the Maharshi's story is heard or read, who would care to listen to or read any other? Yet I myself am always thrilled to hear any anecdote about anyone touched by his grace and knowledge in any manner whatsoever. So this is the inner story of Periya Puranam, where the devotee loses his life and the life of the devotee becomes part of the Satcharita of God or Guru. So, if there is anything said here that can serve the function of reminding a fellow disciple or devotee about the immensity of His grace and the importance of the knowledge He reveals, this will have served some useful purpose. But if any emphasis would be placed upon this body, or if there would arise any fascination with a supposed individual, such would run contrary to the intention in saying these things, the intention of him at whose request this has been written, and the intention of truth itself. What is presented here are more a few descriptions of what has occurred inwardly than any depicting of an outward tale of events, actions, or circumstances. Whatever is declared here is Sri Bhagavan's alone and does not indicate in the least any individual significance, but only the glory of the timeless presence of the Maharshi. It is said that not a stone on holy Arunachala was untouched by his feet. I am just one of these stones. It does not seem possible to determine when illusion or Maya began, with all its confusion and bondage. If an inquiry is made as to its nature, it vanishes and proves beginningless in the sense of never having begun at all. With true knowledge, it is, however, found to be non existent. It never came to be, like the illusory snake, where in fact there is only a rope. There is no actual happiness or peace in illusion. Delusion spawns desire and fear, anticipation and hollow memories, and attachment and aversion as one yearns for happiness, expecting to obtain from someone or something else what is actually one's own. Life appears confusing and binding, while death appears fearful and inescapable. There seems to be no access to the truth, and the purpose of life remains unknown or forgotten. Even if some word or symbol pertaining to the truth is presented, there is no ability, it seems, to retain the symbol, let alone comprehend it and abide in its true significance. It is a turbulent ocean, mirage-like in nature, with billows of sorrow and troughs of boredom. It is an empty prison without walls and a dream without beginning and end. Meetings are transient and separation is forever. And though there may be an agreement of deluded ideas, there is no true love. Like dry leaves before gusts of wind, one is driven by karma as one tries to cling to what cannot possibly last and attempts to avoid the inevitable. One learns and learns as life slips by with no real wisdom forthcoming, and one never thinks to look within. There is fear of loneliness that could swallow one up, but one never inquires to see just what this fear is. that fear it is that is there when consumed, you are all alone. I'll read that again. There is the fear of loneliness that could swallow one up, but one never inquires to see just what it is. That is there when consumed. When that fear is consumed, you are all alone. The description of delusion could go on endlessly, as repetitive as ignorance itself. And when the truth is known, self-revealed by the grace of the Guru, the whole illusion is mere nothingness with no duration. Though illusion is nothing, it seems so powerful and encompassing. Though it seems powerful and encompassing, it is really nothing. The author takes us through the inquiry of Vairagya and the fear of death and the fear of illusion, which are counterparts. As far as the individual is concerned, there is the fear of death. As far as the whole creation is concerned, there is the fear of it being Maya. And he says, when inquired into, and that fear is consumed, as Bhagavan did on that holy day of enlightenment, he faced the fear. Akka says that if you have to cross the threshold and go into who you really are, the eternal self, one has to die to that which is mortal. And that is what Bhagavan did on that day. He faced Maya. He faced the fear of death. And as the author writes, that we don't inquire and see. Uh, I'll read that. There is the fear of loneliness that could swallow one up. But one never inquires to see just what that fear is. That that is there when consumed, when that fear is consumed, you are all alone, untouched by any fear, and the Maya which appeared beginningless becomes nothing. It is really nothing, says the writer. The grace of the Guru pierces the illusion, bubble like dream, in inexplicable ways. It is always blissful and liberating. It reveals itself as direct experience and shines as revelation. It manifests as sudden samadhi, transcendent of the body and all thought, and with no apparent previous cause or condition. It displays itself in a myriad lessons of wisdom, the essence of which is always knowledge of oneself. How Bhagavan enquires, what is it that is mortal in me? What is it that dies? And stiffens the body, holds the breath, stills the thought, which are all mortal, and finds that am I dead? No. Now that I have stilled all that is mortal in me, am I dead? Bhagavan finds no. I am still alive. The deathless spirit is going on as aham, aham, aham. I am not these body parts. I am not these thoughts. I am not the breath that has a beginning and end. I am the deathless spirit. That is the samadhi that comes suddenly. The samadhi is the oneness with the deathless spirit and freedom from all that is mortal. It displays itself as myriad lessons of wisdom, the essence of which is always knowledge of oneself. It aligns all the factors of life and also lifts one quite beyond all of them. Though for many, all these things happen after seeing some passage of his teaching or being blessed by his darshan through a picture or having seen him when his body still lived, Sri Bhagavan also manifests his grace in all these ways prior to one's knowing anything about him, even his name, and only later makes known to the disciple or devotee his name and form, which for us is the name of the ineffable and the form of the formless. In his inscrutable divine guidance, Bhagavan accomplishes what needs to be accomplished at the perfect time and in the perfect way. Thus, in all these ways and more, this presence manifests, unasked, thou givest, by not erroneously claiming any of these blessings as the possessions of the ego. They endure and are not lost to obscuring vasanas. So, when we don't proclaim this possession, the possession of samadhi as mine, then it endures because it is not limited by one saying that it is his possession. They are identified as being of the grace of Maharshi and are not imagined to be the results of fate, of one's own merit, or of the mind's activity or meanderings. The samadhi, they shine due to the boundless power of vivid reality which Sri Ramana himself is. His presence manifests, yet may not be known at first to him, to be him in the sense of knowing anything about a guru or the self, let alone having any idea of finding and devoting oneself to that guru or having the ability to abide as that self. Later, one learns of the holy name, Bhagavan Sri Ramana Maharshi, and gains the darshan of the most serene, bliss-bestowing gaze. Then the heart is flooded with joy, and the path that seemed winding and as narrow as the razor's edge becomes straight, direct, and so wide as to make it impossible to go astray. Once we find Bhagavan's royal path, where is anything else? There is only Bhagavan's path, there is only the Atman. The Maharishi revealed the secret of bliss, the real source of deep lasting happiness. He showed the source, the nature and the experience of happiness to be one and the same. It is not of worldly or sensory character. Happiness is within. What is within is the self. Here, the author completes Bhagavan's teachings for us. In order to gain that happiness, which is the self, one should know oneself. It seems that this is such simple truth, and indeed, it is simpler than any extroverted thought to the contrary. But to fully grasp it and dwell unwaveringly in it is essential. It is foundational to the enquiry into the self. Hence, he has so dearly enunciated it in the preamble to the sacred set of liberating instructions contained in Who Am I? Once it is truly understood, there is freedom from the world. No longer could anything cause suffering, be it an object, an event, conditions, or a person. With this instruction, the tangled knot of desire and aversion, indeed all attachment, was cut asunder in such a manner as to make it impossible to be recreated. With this simple, profound instruction by Sri Ramana, a direct way to be transcendent of the world was opened that far exceeded the slow approach of dealing with each desire and aversion individually by attempting to remove each thought about such while staying at the same level or kind of identity as those thoughts. The detachment thus yielded is of a luminous freedom and peace, the mind's concerns vanishing like the darkness before the sun. Wherever and whenever we are, bliss is with us, in us, and can no more be parted from us, that we can be separated from our own existence. The joy of absorption of his teaching and absorption in its profound meaning far surpasses the fulfillment of any desire, even all of them put together. Bhagavan has revealed bliss, and with a happy heart, all is at peace. Om Namo Bhagavate Shri Ramanaya.
Namo Ramana. We say that we are celebrating Bhagavan's enlightenment. What greater celebration of his enlightenment than the fact that so many have been bestowed by Bhagavan with that very state. Sri Nandakumarji's reading of Master Nomi's experience brings that out in clear light to us, the simplicity of the experience, the beauty of it was wonderfully highlighted by Nandakumarji's reading, and it establishes the fact that Bhagavan's enlightenment is for all of us. It's for the entire universe. Again, as Sadhu Om Swami says, it is for every being to understand the one, to know the one who knows. And as Vishwanatha Swami says, it is Jagat Hitavatara. He is born for the welfare of the entire universe. And how does he encapsulate the path for each one of us to attain that welfare? It is encoded by him, clarified by him, and revealed by him as the path of self-enquiry. We now have Sri Dileep Simha conducting the self-enquiry session.
Namo Ramana. Dhyayet Sharada Chandra Sundaramukam Tambraravinde Kshanam Bhaktabhishtavarabhayapradakaram Kaupinamatrojvalam Swatmanandarasanubhuti vivasham sarvanavadhyangakam Shrimantam Shri Ramaneshwaram Guruvaram Yogasana Dhyasitam Dhyayet Shri Ramaneshwaram Dhyayet Shri Ramaneshwaram Dhyayet Shri Ramaneshwaram Hridaya Kuhara Madhye Kevalam Brahmamatram Yahamahmiti Sakshatatmarupena Bhati Hridi Vishamanasa Swam Chinvata Majjatava Pavana Chalanarodha Atmanishto Bhavatvam. Namo Ramana to all. Happy Enlightenment Day. I will be reading today Bhagavan's Upadesham from his own narration of his death experience. I'll be reading a part of it. The shock or the fear of death drove my mind inward, and I said to myself mentally, without actually framing the words. I repeat, without actually framing the words. Now death has come. What does it mean? What is it that is dying? This body dies. And I at once dramatized the occurrence of death. I lay with my limbs stretched out stiff as though rigor mortis had set in, and imitated a corpse so as to give greater reality to the enquiry. I held my breath and kept my lips tightly closed so that no sound could escape, so that neither the word I or any other word could be uttered. Well, then I said to myself, this body is dead. It will be carried stiff to the burning ground and there burnt and reduced to ashes. But with the death of this body, am I dead? Is the body I? It is silent and inert, but I feel the full force of my personality and even the voice of the I within me apart from it. So I am spirit transcending the body. The body dies, but the spirit that transcends it cannot be touched by death. This means I am the deathless spirit. I'll repeat the last sentence again. So I am spirit transcending the body. The body dies, but the spirit that transcends it cannot be touched by death. This means I am the deathless spirit. All this was not dull thought. It flashed through me vividly as living truth which I perceived directly, almost without thought process. I repeat again that all this was not dull thought. It flashed through me vividly as living truth, which I perceived directly, almost without thought process. I was something very real, the only real thing about my present state, and all the conscious activity connected with my body was centered on that I. From that moment onwards, the I or self focused attention on itself by a powerful fascination. I'll stop it here. Bhagavan is bringing our attention to two things here, that none of the death experience for him was something which was mentally thought over. He just observed the things as it was, or as it is for all of us also right now. That there is one truth to which all these thoughts are appearing and disappearing, all these states of waking and dream, and the sleep is coming and going, and yet that doesn't go through any of this waking. It doesn't wake, it doesn't sleep, it doesn't dream. It is there. That spirit is there. So that which is there, Bhagavan is asking us to perceive it, to know it as a living truth, he says. He says that that is the living truth. But everything else is a thought. The waking, the dream, it's all full of thoughts. It's a built up ideas and concepts. Whereas from under whose light, if all these ideas are having reality, if we see, if we turn within and check, then that living truth becomes very clear, vivid. Bhagavan says it becomes very vivid, directly perceived. And after that, Bhagavan says one more thing. I was something very real, only real thing about my present state. That is very important. Even though we may experience that reality, that living truth, but if we still don't give it the complete reality, still if we hold on to these thoughts, to this way, whatever is all the events that are happening in the waking dream as equally real, then again we may lose it. So Bhagavan is saying that was the only real thing about my present state. After that, it was the only real thing that he held on to. And all the conscious activity with my body was centered on that. So whatever happened, whatever the body did, it did. But he was always in that living truth. From that moment onwards, the self focused attention on itself by a powerful fascination. When one recognizes that is the only living truth, there is nothing else. And if one is keen about the truth, one would not even go and attend to anything else anymore. There will be no more fascination for anything. Bhagavan is saying it, that from that moment, the grace made him fully focus on itself. So Bhagavan says that the mind will gain enough strength to remain at the source. That is what exactly Bhagavan means in Atma Vichara. So in Atma Vichara, which Bhagavan has given us to experience that living truth vividly, he says that every thought that rises within us is all nothing but the ego, the imaginary thing, the individual which is not existent. So instead of that, moment we recognize that there is a thought, we should diligently inquire to whom is this. Thereupon it becomes very clear, it is I, for me, I. Then that imaginative identity becomes very vivid, clear. And once that becomes clear, we should further inquire, who am I? What is that which gives reality to this idea of I? Or where from this I, or what do I refer to as I? Or where from this thought I rises within me? If we dive to the source of the I, then that living truth, which alone is, to whom these thoughts all appear, including the thought, who am I, appeared, that becomes available to that. That living truth comes forth. And Bhagavan says, then we should recognize that that is the actual reality. That is the real I that I am looking for, not this thought, the I thought or all the other thoughts. It is not me. That living truth is what I am. And when one gives reality to it and abides in that, then Bhagavan says, from then on, with that fascination to that truth, as Bhagavan says, the mind will gain enough strength to remain at that source. The immense grace of Master, with which alone that we could have come to this direct path, with which alone we could understand his teachings, and with which alone we can practice, and with which alone takes us and establishes in us in that living truth, consuming all the delusions. Let us do Atma Vichara for the next 10 minutes. Shri Ramanaya. Namo Ramana. Thank you.
Namo Ramana. Thank you. We go on to the sharing by Venkatesh Deshpande of Bhagavan's translation of the composition Hastamalaka, which shows the beauty of that state which we are celebrating today, the enlightenment, the Jnanodaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. Dakshinamurti Sarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Ramanacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Padam Shankaram Lokashankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhasha Krutau Vande Bhagavantau Puna Puna Om. So as we celebrate Bhagavan's Enlightenment Day today, I thought let us try and, we will go into the Hastamalaka a little later, but I thought let us talk about Bhagavan's teachings itself, because what excites me most about any great one is what does it bring on the table? What do I learn from that? Because that's the most important thing. That's the manana part. And then we try and see how do we practice that manana into make it nididhyasana. So if we really see Bhagavan's life, it was light to light. Just think about this. When he was born, the midwife told Argamar, hey, this child of yours is not an ordinary child. I saw a huge light. And when Bhagavan left his body, again there was a meteor which was a light which went into Arunachala. So what Bhagavan is trying to say is important thing for all of us, that we start from light and end in light. This is a very important thing that we need to do manana on. And that's the other thing that he said is, where can I go? Now, if you ask the question, where can I go? That means the light was always there. But what happened was, we as devotees see the body and the actions done by the body. See, one thing we have to understand, we human beings like a little bit of drama in our lives. If life is without drama, it is very boring. So what happened was, Bhagavan did this drama of this enlightenment drama. If you really see, he was the light. When he was born, he was the light. He had Arunachala Spurana happening all the time within. If you see, when in the childhood, nobody could wake him up. He was literally in samadhi. Whenever he used to go to sleep, he was in samadhi. And the people used to call him Tangakai, means he had literally the hands of gold. So these all were not, characteristics of a normal human being. So here was Bhagavan, who did a little bit of a drama for all of us, saying that he had this thing of death experience, and he will lay down, and then all this body of this thing all vanished, because then we believe as human beings, oh, we can also have that same experience of not being in the body mind. And so that's why my personal belief is that was a drama that was played out. Then if you look at it, it is drama means what? It's a leela. When I say drama, when like I always say, like when I call Dileep lion, it's not he's not a lion, but the qualities of the lion. Similarly, it's the leela of the God. So God has his own leela, may things. So this leela of Arunachala, this leela was to glorify Arunachala. So he, like when he said that, Father, I have come, what was he trying to tell us in that? He was trying to tell us was always be at the source. So when he says, when he had Arunachala going on within, that was the source, and then he came to glorify him and came to the Arunachala temple. But the other thing that came out of this was the Nirguna and Saguna. See, some people believe in Saguna. Then he says, oh, Arunachala is here, this hill is here, you can pray to that, or the temple is there. Or he says Nirguna, and he says Hridaya Kuhara Madhye Kevalam Brahma Matram. That means God is actually within you. So that is the Nirguna God. So the important thing he taught us was you go from bliss to bliss. It is like you come empty-handed and go empty-handed. But in the middle, you try to catch all these different toys, all these gifts given by God, you try to catch all of them. And that's when we are in dukkha. The other thing Bhagavan said is body is passing. See, the important thing that even Swami Shivananda also talks about, suffering purifies and turns the mind towards God. So if you really see, Bhagavan and all the great ones had great body discomfort. But Bhagavan says it is like 50 elephants walking on his hand. That was the level of pain in his hand. But it didn't bother him. Why? He felt the pain, but he was detached from the pain. So what Bhagavan is trying to tell us, even if we have pain in our body, we should be always attached to the self. So detached from the world, attached to the self. So the other thing I think is extremely valuable Bhagavan told us was return unkindness and injury with service and love. See, if you read this again, return unkindness and injury with service and love. If you see those robbers who came and wanted, because there were foreigners who were coming into the hut, they came and they went into the hut and were looking, they couldn't find anything, and they beat Bhagavan on his head, on his feet, on his legs. But the other devotees said, shall we also beat them? So Bhagavan said, no. That we are all here as we are in in satsang. We are all trying to get to God. So we should not do that. So this is an important thing that said that you return unkindness and injury with service and love. The other thing I think is very profound is the aspect of the degree of grace is in direct proportion to the degree of surrender. So if you were a devotee who came to Bhagavan with a total surrender, then it's like you came with a big bucket and you would get all the grace. But if you were little surrendered and you had lots of questions, that also was okay, but he would clarify those questions and he would also quieten your mind. So but important thing again Bhagavan is trying to say is that degree of grace is directly proportional to the degree of surrender. So the higher the surrender means higher you believe in Bhagavan, then higher is the degree of grace. Grace means what? There is sense of happiness. a sense of freedom. The other thing that Dileep also spoke about was being in the present. Important thing. The past is gone. This last minute is gone. The last second is gone. The minute to come is nobody knows about it. So being in the present is another thing that Bhagavan always spoke about. And that's a very important thing for all of us, that whenever you get an opportunity, if you've got 1 second or 1 minute to free, do self-enquiry. If you're doing work, do self-enquiry. So don't lose out on any of the time given to you. Obviously, Bhagwan was an avatara, he was not a man who became a god man, because there are a lot of men who became god men, but he was an avatara. He was God himself who had come down, and the God's Leela was played out. The other thing is, live in the world, but not of the world. So so it's important that even if you see Bhagavan, the way he lived, he would do his chores. He would get up in the morning, he would cut the vegetables. At night, he would close the gate. He would do whatever needs to be done. But he was always established in the self when he was doing that. So if you really look at Bhagavan, he was a total package, because he was obviously, he was God. Because God is obviously a total package, and this Leela of his is what we keep talking about. This in the talks, in the books that we read, in the satsangs that we talk about his Leela. His Leela is why do we talk about him? Because we think that, hey, someday if we are able to emulate some of those aspects in our lives, then at least we get a sense of happiness. But important thing really is, Bhagavan says, is that where can I go? So Bhagavan is here and now. So this is the greatest lesson. Where is Bhagavan? He's not sitting in Tiruvannamalai only. He's not sitting on Arunachala hill only. He is in your heart. So the most important lesson that Bhagavan told all of us, he glorifies the self in all. That means Hridaya Kuhara Madhye Kevalam Brahma Matram. That's the most powerful Eka Shloki, which says that God is within you. So how did he glorify that? That Arunachala hill, which is a column of light, that same light was born as Ramana, and that same light merged back into Arunachala. So it was the same light. So exactly the same thing he's trying to tell us, that we are exactly that same light of Arunachala. But we don't seem to see that, because we seem to be caught up in this world of names and forms. So I thought on this on this beautiful day of Bhagavan's enlightenment, we could glorify him and speak about his Leela. I'm not sure. I think so. I don't have much of time to do Hastamalaka today. So, but basically, what does Hastamalaka say? Hastamalaka says that it is like seeing a gooseberry on your hand. Being in the self is like being in seeing a gooseberry in your hand. So it's important that all of us go inwards and be able to be in that peace. When you say Om Shanti, 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 it is actually being in the self. So this little boy, Hastamalaka, was in that state of, and Shankaracharya had to come and glorify his state. And he obviously Hastamalaka became a devotee of Bhagavan, Bhagavan Shankaracharya. But important thing really again is to understand is that state. It's not the state of doing, because when the little boy was young, he was just a boy of 7. He was acting very funnily. He used to be disinterested in things. But his inner being was of the highest level, but nobody could see that. So there was Shankaracharya who came, who praised him and brought forward that inner state. So Bhagavan also is trying to say the same thing. Doing is not important. Being is most important. What you do does not matter. What your intentions are behind what you're doing only matter. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya.
Namo Ramana. The essence of Bhagavan, the essence of being, and the essence of the reason why we are celebrating this Jnanodaya have been touched upon by Venkatesh Deshpande. And we go on to the sharing from Dr.Kalarani Rengasamy on Jnana Vichara Padalam. Again, the very title says Jnana, so we can see how closely it is linked to that which we are celebrating today.
Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. Arunachalamena agame ninaipavar agathai veraruppai Arunachala. Namo Ramana to all. I am happy to say that on this day, Bhagavan got enlightenment. For what? To enlighten us only. Because Sadhuvam Swami beautifully says, Katru Kodungalappa, Adai Katru Kodungalappa, Yedai Katru Kondalini Inba Tumbam Illayo, and in the last stanza he says, Yedai Katru Koduka Guru Guru Eduthu Vandiro, Adai Katru Kodungalappa. For what you have come as Guru, please teach us that. And that is the purpose of the enlightenment also. So his infinite grace, he has given us in that process for enlightening us. He has translated the great work of Devi Kaloktra Jnana Vichara Padalam into Tamil. And the last satsang we saw, Irikiren en Kalayodu Yeinda Chaitanya Uru Sakti. That's what we saw in the last satsang. Here Bhagavan explains, which is the greatest Sakti. His great wealth gives one a great Sakti. His assuring great knowledge gives a person a great Sakti. His getting great fame gives one a great Sakti. Is the thought that I am a great Karma Yogi gives great Sakti. Is the thought I am a great devotee makes one a Saktiman? No, not at all. Because when one at a particular time, they have to lose all they have acquired, all the Saktis. So Muruganar beautifully says, they are all sharp dependents. But realizing our own existence, being is the Chaitanya Guru Guru. And that is the Sakti. That is the real Sakti. As Dileep ji said in the last satsang, he is the king of universe because universe is within him. Universe is abiding in him. Once there was a sage in that state and people were giving great respect to that state. The king came to know about the sage and wanted to see him. So he sent some of his ministers and asked him to bring that sage to the palace. When the sage entered the king's court, king welcomed him with Purna Kumbha and made the sage sit on a special chair. And the king stood folding his hands like this by the side of that sage. The king said, "O Swami, first of all, you have to forgive me to bring you here to my palace. But I want to clear a doubt. That is why I did like this." "Oh, that's okay," said the sage. Because jnanis at that stage, they don't have any difference whether they are in the forest or in the palace. So he said, "It's okay. What's your doubt? Tell me. I want to know. I'm a king, with great wealth. And people can come and ask me for that. I'm in a position to protect them from the enemies. And there are many other things
and even poets come here, show their talent and get lot of prizes. So they respect me because of this action of mine. But you do not have any such thing, you don't do anything. But I feel people respect you more than they give respect to me. What's the reason? Oh, say, that's my doubt. The sage said in 2 words in Tamil. He said, Ni nirka, nan irukka. See, you are a great king, standing before me, folding your hand, and I am sitting before you. Can that happen with any other person? That too, you only made me to sit here. And that is the difference, that's all. Person who realizes his own real nature, his existence, is the king of universe. He has no expectations, no aspiration, because he finds nothing other than himself. So it is said, the universe is within him. He sees the universe as pure existence. Bhagavan says, you must be ever ready to throw off this world. But remember not to waste even a small dust, what we call in Tamil as turumbu. Don't waste even a turumbu. Even a small turumbu should not be wasted. Bhagavan used to tear blank space from the letters that come to ashram. Even he used to tear the blank spaces in newspaper also. And he stitches them into a small notebooks, and he used to use them for writing the highest Anma-jnana tattvas in that stitched notebook. When we were in Delhi, I have seen Professor K. Swaminathan following this Upadesam very strictly. When my father goes to Delhi Ramana Kendra work, he said he would give, Professor K. Swaminathan would give a half page for typing. He will say, it's enough, Guru Swami, the letter is very small only, you can adjust. For that matter, Professor A.R.N. Uncle, Slochana Auntie, Muruganar, Periya Swami, Vishwanath Swami, Kunju Swami, Kanakama, and many others are the rulers of this universe, I can assure. Once a devotee asked Bhagavan, how can jnanis like you sit quiet without moving when there is a turmoil in the world? Bhagavan replied, yes, they should, but how do you know jnanis are not rendering any help? The remaining where they are in itself is a help to the world. To all outward appearance, they seem to be doing nothing. Supposing there is a wealthy person, in his dream, he goes for begging, work as a coolie, sweeps the street, and in the same manner, a jnani may do anything according to his prarabdha, but he remains unattached and maintains a dignified aloofness. His Shakti works in many ways, but he does not feel happy or unhappy over the success or the failure in his effort. That is because he sees the world as full of Brahman only. We have feeling the no gratification or sorrow when he does not feel that he is in this body, that he is a man, or that is the world. That is the Chaitanya Guru Shakti, that being realized by Jnani. So it is said, he is the king of the universe. Suri Nagamma reports in our book Letters from Ramanashramam that there was a discussion about the book on the life of Shankara Vijayam and Vidyaranya. Bhagavan said his mental power was so great. As he was a great devotee of Sri Vidya, he wanted to create a city in the shape of Sri Chakra and started doing it in Hampi. But what happened? The route, he could not complete that. So he said, an emperor in the future would rule the country and would be able to build a city in the shape of Sri Chakra. Bhagavan said, when I told this to Naina, Ganapati Muni, Naina said, in Arunachala Puranam, it is said, this hill itself is reputed to be in the shape of Sri Chakra. Bhagavan is the Chakravarti. If about 10 houses are built around this hill, itself is a great empire. Shankara must have intended this only. So saying, Naina arranged the whole administrative setup by saying, he is the commander-in-chief, that man is treasurer, and this man is that and that. It used to be very amusing, Bhagavan said, all sitting together and say, what are the refreshment today for our darbar? And they used to draw up a program and cook with what all they have only. And they used to conduct the program as if they were ruling the empire. Naina actually drew up a plan on the paper for the city to be built. A special place was allotted to Bhagavan also in that plan. No king, no kingdom. Plans are getting ready. Where is the king? Where is the kingdom? Asked Bhagavan one day. Subbarao, a disciple of Naina, said, why there is no king? He is just opposite to us. Only this king wears a linen cloth. That's all. So that is the Shakti. And the Shakti that makes one realize his existence. The Shakti because of which the whole universe shines. On this Enlightenment Day, may Bhagavan bless us with that Shakti to realize ourselves. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya.
Namo Ramana. Dr. Kalarani has voiced the prayer of every one of us. They celebrate this. And we go on to the sharing by Ujjwal Jagdish based on Ganapati Muni's Ramana Satsang.
Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. Ramanaya Loka Gurave Namaha. Ramanaya Loka Gurave Namaha. Ramanaya Loka Gurave Namaha. Ramanaya Loka Gurave Namaha. Yanayatra Kekinam Kulapati Sanayana Swarnadi Panaya Shri Brahmahendra Duhiturna Samyadugdamritam Ganaya Pramateshwara Savayaso Naiva Dravina Abrito Vasam Shonagirau Karoshi Bhagavan Kraunchadriveka Kutaha Ramanaya Loka Gurave Namaha Ramananige Loka Guruvige Namaha Payanisalu Illi Mayura Rajanilla Miyalu Gangaila Anamadalu Giriraja Sutaya Sanyamritavu illa. Ganapati Muni praising Bhagavan Ramana in these 40 verses, Ramana Satsang calls Ramana as Subramanya Swarupa, and he has come as the Guru to this loka, to this world. And we are today celebrating that day when Ramana revealed his Guru Tattva. It was July 17, 1896 in Madurai, Chokkapanaikan Street, door number 11. When Ramana was staying at his uncle's house, the boy Venkatraman became no more. And in his place, a sage of undying wisdom was born. And he was born to become the Guru to the whole world. And Ganapati Muni, when he saw Bhagavan and surrendered to him and got the first spoken Upadesha from Bhagavan, he realized he is not an ordinary human being. He is the seer of seers. He is Maharshi, and he is the Guru, and he is the beloved of all. So he should be called Ramana, and he is not an ordinary human being. He is divine himself. He is Subramanya himself who has come in the human form. So he should be called Bhagavan, and he gave the name Bhagavan Sri Ramana Maharshi. And talking jovially to Ramana, Ganapati Muni himself was the avatara of Ganapati, and he saw Bhagavan as his brother, younger brother, Subramanya, and he is asking his younger brother in a very, very jovial manner, "Oh, Subramanya, my little brother, why have you come to this Shonagiri? Why have you come and staying in Arunachala? Here you don't have any of the comforts that we enjoyed in our father and mother's home at Kailasa. There is no your favorite head peacock on whom you could travel here and there." And in the way in the past satsangs, we were meditating that Ramana had come to stay at Arunachala, not to move. So he just felt there is no need of bringing his head peacock vehicle. So he left him at Kailasa and he has come alone to Arunachala, and is to take bath. There is no. I'm facing a network issue. 1 second, I'll join back. Namo Ramana, I'm sorry. But he is asking that the Ganapati Muni is asking Ramana, who is Subramanya, "Oh Ramana, there is no the Ganga to take bath. What are you doing?" And Ramana has come to that Arunachala, which is Karuna Purna Sudhabde. It is the ocean of nectar where all the rivers come and merge in that ocean. So Ramana has come to the ocean, so he is not missing the Ganga too. And the next line he is asking, "Are you not missing that milk of grace, the sweet milk, nectarous milk of Mother Parvati, who is the daughter of the Parvata Raja?" We all know that in Tiruvannamalai, Parvati Devi is called the Apita Kuchamba, from whose breast nobody has sucked. And the explanation is given by the scholars that she is called Apita Kuchamba because Parvati gave birth to Ganapati and Subramanya not in the usual manner, but we know that how she created Ganesha by her turmeric paste that she had applied on her body, and how Subramanya was born out of the spark which came out of Shiva's third eye. So she is the one who has the breast which is unsucked. But meditating on this point, I was thinking that Arunachala is the Adi Linga, the first Linga which appeared even before any creation happened. So even before when the creation happened, even before the Arunachaleshwara and Apita Kuchamba became the Jagan Mata Pita, mother and father of the whole universe, she was there. That's why she is ready with her Jnana Pal, the milk of love and grace, that she is ready, fully ready to offer it to anybody who comes to her in hunger. In Nandikeshwara, in Abhinay Darpana, text on Bharatanatyam, he answers the question, who is the best dancer? Nartaki Lakshana. What is the best quality of a Nartaki? And Nandikeshwara, whom I believe is Nandi himself, he would have remembered his mother, Parvati Devi, dancing in Kailasa, and he has replied that Tanvi Rupavati Shama Pino Natapayodara. He says the Nartaki is slim and beautiful, and she is Shamala, and she has two bosoms which are full. And when I read this word, I remembered Apita Kuchamba, who is full of love and full of grace and full of jnana, that she is awaiting to give it to all her children. We know that when Subramanya was born as Tirujnana Sambandar, the same Parvati Devi gave her jnana pal to that little boy, Tirujnana Sambandar, and soon after that he could sing poetry in profound Tamil. And again, when Subramanya was born as Ramana, he was drawn to Madurai, the place of Mother Meenakshi. And there, Parvati wondered, if I just give this little boy, my son Subramanya, the milk, ordinary milk, which satiates the hunger of this physical body, it is not enough. We get hungry again and again and again. We again cry for milk. Again we are given the milk. Again when we get hungry, we again cry. So there is no end. So I should give that milk which satiates all hunger. Kalarani Akka, when she was talking about Appalamittu Pare, Ramana says, Appalamittu Pare, Attai Shapittu Nashayai Teere. Eat that tappalam. After eating that tappalam, let all your desires of all your hungers, all your thirsts are all satiated. So, with that thought, Mother Meenakshi thought, it is not enough if I feed him with my breast milk just to take care of his body. I should give that milk which will satiate all hunger. So with her Karuna Kataksha, she made this little boy experience the fear of death. And when Ramana was staying in his uncle's house in the first floor, he was filled with this fear of death. And he just felt he's going to die and there's no escape from it. So he decided to face the death and find out the meaning of death. And he lied down on the ground as if enacting death, and he held his breath and he held his mouth so that no word came out of his mouth. And at that moment he realized, even when the body is dead, even when the body is taken to the cremation ground and burnt into ashes, there was something which was always shining in him as I. At that moment he realized that he is not the body, he is that power within, that avesham within which is deathless. He is that deathless spirit. And after that moment, whatever he was doing, whether he was reading, writing, playing, walking, or even eating, he was ever absorbed in that self. And that self, T.K. Sundaresh here in the song which I learned recently, he says that self is like the Pal, Arut Pal. Come and drink that Arut Pal. Ramana, who had drank that Arut Pal from the Meenakshi Devi's Kataksham, he was drawn to Arunachala so that he can spread this message to all, saying that you don't need milk from outside, you don't need anything from outside to satiate your hunger. The only thing that you need is to get back to that self and drink that ever-flowing milk of grace, which is ever flowing in the heart, ever flowing in the heart, because there resides the Chinmayi, the mother. To reveal this, he had come to Arunachala, so he was not missing that sweet milk of Mother Parvati too. But Parvati Devi had to take care of the body, so she took care of the body in various ways. We know that the Abhisheka Pal, which was brought by a sadhu and was given to the young Ramana who had come to Tiruvannamalai, and later many Parvati Devi came as many mothers and took care of Ramana, and Parvati Devi also came as the Arunachala Aksha Ramana Malai, and she fed Bhagavan Ramana in various ways and took care of the body. And Ramana also says, when we turn towards that Chinmayi, when we pay attention to that self, all the other layers of the body are taken care. So if we turn towards that mother who is ever ready to give us her Arutpal, if we drink that Arutpal, we are taken care, says Bhagavan Ramana through his life. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya.
Namo Ramana. Prostrations to Ramana, shining as a self in all beings. We have been meditating on the namas of Vishwanatha Swami's Ramana Ashtottaram, and we were meditating on the nama Shonachala Maho Leena Manasaya Namaha Swarnahastakaya Namaha Srimadvadashanta Mahastale Labdha Vidyodayaya Namaha. In a sense, all these names we can see. They form one set of names, we can say. And here, Vishwanatha Swami, he said that Bhagavan attained liberation. Not really. He says he studied at Madurai, Labdha Vidyodaya. And then he goes on to say, Mahashakti Nipatena Prabuddhaya Namaha. So the Vidya which Bhagavan got at Madurai, he received that Vidya, because it's called Vidya, but the Vidya can also be Atma Vidya, which he got at Madurai. In fact, Professor Swaminathan says that he, Bhagavan, leapt from the lap of Mother Parvati to the arms of the Father Arunachala. He was enveloped in that bliss of Arunachala. The mother led him to be enveloped in that bliss, because it is Sahayamba Sahayavate Namaha Shonachala Maho Leena Manasaya Namaha. And that enlightenment about which we have been meditating today, in which Bhagavan in a flash came to know what his real nature is, was always with him just as it is always with us. And it was in him in the form of the Arunachala Spurana, that extraordinary fullness, that extraordinary being, something which is indescribable, something which is glorious. If we look at these descriptions of Bhagavan of Arunachala, they are indeed the descriptions of the self. So Bhagavan was in that state always. Even before he was born, he was in that state. So what happened on the 17th of July, 1896, if we look at that, if we look at the fact that even though we say that he is an Avatara Purusha, why did he play out this Leela? Is, as I was meditating on it, even in the morning, it is to put his stamp of authority on that method of self-enquiry. Bhagavan, we found that he has blessed every aspect of a seeker's life. He has blessed Pujanam Japas Chintanam Kramat. Venkatesh Deshpande ji had pointed this out to us when we were celebrating Bhagavan's Jayanti online. And we meditated on it. The whole center meditated on this concept and we presented it. That Bhagavan has blessed the puja. As a boy, when he used to go with his friends on picnic, he used to do Abhisheka to the Shiva at Kaliyar temple, offer flowers, offer Nevidyam. He blessed the puja. And Japa, he blessed immensely because the Arunachala Nama was ever shining in his heart. So how did he bless the Chintana? The self-enquiry. That he blessed on this day, the 17th of July, when he allowed the Mahashakti to reveal itself in him. Mahashakti Nipatena. It is said that that great Shakti enters one. It descends upon us. That Shakti descends upon us. Or we may say it rises up or it reveals itself in the heart. But actually, the point is that the descent it is called a descent in the sense of being a rain of grace, a downpour of grace. A downpour, if we see in the prayer of Adi Shankara for the Kanakadhara, let there be a downpour of wealth. That Muruganar Swami refers to Bhagavan as the rain cloud of grace from which the downpour happens. So in that sense of there being a downpour of grace, Vishwanatha Swami says, Mahashakti Ripatena Prabuddhaya Namaha. Bhagavan showed us what it means to be enlightened, what it means to be liberated here and now. Vindati iha, here itself, jivastu devikaha, to become divine while yet in the body, to attain to that truth and to remain completely, lovingly absorbed in it. And this, we see the beautiful young boy, the innocent Bhagavan, going through this experience, innocent because what did he know about the world? Nothing at all. Just a little young boy, playful, as they all say, playing, going to school, studying. But see, his mind is absorbed in Arunachala, Maholina Manasaya Namaha. So it's not that he was not interested in something, he was interested in something. He was playing. He could sport because that was what it was. The whole of life was a big sport for him that was happening. But that in that innocence, he experienced that truth and thereby he established not only for us the beauty of the path of self-enquiry, he established the glory of the Vedas, the glory of the scriptures beyond any doubt, because he experienced that state with no prior knowledge about it. In the knowledge sense, in the Vidya sense, he had not heard about the self, he had not heard about Atma Vidya, he had not heard about Brahman. All these terms he learnt later. In fact, he says he did not even know how to define what he himself was experiencing. And the definitions came much later, slowly. He also says sometimes, I thought I had got some very sweet illness. That something which was, he was in bliss, but then it was inexplicable because he was in a different state from everyone around him. He was not interested in anything else. The beauty of that, the truth of it, that it is alone the truth, that it does not require any other support. It does not require prior knowledge. It does not require anything because it is the truth. It alone is the truth. This Bhagavan revealed by that beautiful experience of his as a young, innocent boy of 16 on the 17th of July, 1896, and blessed the entire universe with this Anubhava springing from that absolute simple beauty of his being, of his innocence, of his fullness, of his love. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. We go on to the chanting of verses from Bhagavan's Aksharamana Malai.
Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala. கோபமில் குணத்தோய் குறியாயனை கொள குறையன் செய்தேன் அருணாச்சலா. கௌதமர் போற்றும் கருணை மமலையே கடைக்கணித்தாழ்வாய் அருணாச்சலம். சகலமும் விழுங்கும் கதிரொளியின மன ஜலஜமல தீடருணாச்சலம். சாப்பாடுன்னை சார்ந்துணவாயான் சாந்தமாய் போவன் அருணாச்சலா. சித்தம் குளிர கதில் அஸ்தம் வைத்த முதவையை திர அருள்மதி அருணாச்சலா. சீரையழித்த நிர்வாணமா செய்தருள் சீரையழித்தருள் அருணாச்சலா. சுகக்கடல் பொங்க சொல்லுணர்வடங்க சும்மா பொருந்திடங்க அருணாச்சலா. சூது செய்தென்னை சோதியதினி உன் ஜோதி ஒரு காட்டருணாச்சலா. செப்படி வித்தை கற்றிப்படி மயக்க விட்டுருபடி வித்தை காட்டருணாச்சலா. சேராயனின்மை நீராயுருகி கண்ணீராற்றழிவேன் அருணாச்சலா. செய்யன தள்ளீர் செய்வினை சுடுமலர் உய்வகையே துரை அருணாச்சலா. சொல்லாது சொல்லினி சொல்லரனில் என்று சும்மா இருந்தாய் அருணாச்சலா. அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ 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 அருணாச்சலா. அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா. அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா. அருணாச்சலம் வாழி அன்பர்களும் வாழி. அக்ஷரமண மாலை வாழி.
So, Ramana, we conclude today's celebration and satsang with the Ashtotra Puja to Bhagavan. The puja will be offered at Dileep Simha's altar and it will be chanted by Vaibhavji and Prarthana, the first part, and the second half by Revathi Sankar.
नमो रमण भारद्वाज विश्वनाथ विरचितं श्रीरमणाष्टोत्तर शतनामावलिः अपार सच्चित् सुखवारिराशे यस्योमि मात्रं भुवनं समस्तं गुहाहितं तं रमणं गभीरं चिन्ताविहीनं हृदि चिन्तयामि। ॐ महासेन महंसेन जाताय नमः। ॐ श्रीरमणाय नमः। ॐ गुरवे नमः। ॐ अखण्डसंविदाकाराय नमः। ॐ महौजसे नमः। ॐ कारणोद्भवाय नमः। ॐ जगद्दितावताराय नमः। ॐ श्रीभूमिनाथस्थलोस्थिताय नमः। ॐ पराशरकुलोत्तंसाय नमः। ॐ सुन्दरार्यतपःफलाय नमः। ॐ कमनीयसुचारित्राय नमः। ॐ सहायाम्बा सहायवते नमः। ॐ शोणाचलमहोलीनमानसाय नमः। ॐ स्वर्णहस्तकाय नमः। ॐ श्रीमद्द्वादशान्तमहास्थले लब्धविद्योदयाय नमः। ॐ महाशक्तिनिपातेन प्रबुद्धाय नमः। ॐ परमार्थविदे नमः। ॐ तीव्राय नमः। ॐ पितृपदान्वेषिणे नमः। ॐ इन्दुमौळिना पितृमते नमः। ॐ पितुरादेशत शोणशैलं प्राप्ताय नमः। ॐ तपोमयाय नमः। ॐ उदासीनाय नमः। ॐ महायोगिने नमः। ॐ महोत्साहाय नमः। ॐ कुशाग्रधिये नमः। ॐ शान्तसङ्कल्पसंरम्भाय नमः। ॐ सुसन्दृशे नमः। ॐ सवित्रे नमः। ॐ स्थिराय नमः। ॐ तपक्षपितसर्वाङ्गाय नमः। ॐ पुल्लाम्बुजविलोचनाय नमः। ॐ चन्द्रिकासितहासश्रीमण्डिताननमण्डलाय नमः। ॐ चूतवाट्यां समासीनाय नमः। ॐ चूर्णिताखिलविभ्रमाय नमः। ॐ वेदवेदान्ततत्त्वज्ञाय नमः। ॐ चिन्मुद्रिणे नमः। ॐ त्रिगुणातिगाय नमः। ॐ विरूपाक्षगुहावासाय नमः। ॐ विराजतशलाकृतये नमः। ॐ उद्दीप्तनयनाय नमः। ॐ पूर्णाय नमः। ॐ रसिकाचलताण्डवाय नमः। ॐ गम्भीराय नमः। ॐ परमाचार्याय नमः। ॐ सुप्रसन्नाय नमः। ॐ अभयप्रदाय नमः। ॐ दक्षिणास्य निभाय नमः। ॐ धीराय नमः। ॐ दक्षिणाभिमुखाय नमः। ॐ स्वराजे नमः। ॐ महर्षये नमः। ॐ भगवते नमः। ॐ ईड्याय नमः।
ॐ भूमविद्याविशारदाय नमः। ॐ विमलाय नमः। ॐ दीर्घदर्शिने नमः। ॐ आप्ताय नमः। ॐ ऋजुमार्गप्रदर्शकाय नमः। ॐ समदृशे नमः। ॐ सत्यदृशे नमः। ॐ सत्याय नमः। ॐ प्रशान्ताय नमः। ॐ अमितविक्रमाय नमः। ॐ सुकुमाराय नमः। ॐ सदानन्दाय नमः। ॐ मृदुभाषिणे नमः। ॐ दयार्णवाय नमः। ॐ श्री शोणाचलहृद्भूतस्कन्दाश्रमनिकेतनाय नमः। ॐ सद्दर्शनोपदेष्ट्रे नमः। ॐ सद्भक्तवृन्दपरिवृताय नमः। ॐ गणेशमुनिभृङ्गेन सेविताङ्घ्रिसरोरुहाय नमः। ॐ गीतोपदेशसारादिग्रन्थसञ्छिन्नसंशयाय नमः। ॐ वर्णाश्रममतातीताय नमः। ॐ रसज्ञाय नमः। ॐ सौम्याय नमः। ॐ आत्मवते नमः। ॐ सर्वावनिमतस्थानाम् आराध्याय नमः। ॐ सर्वसद्गुणिने नमः। ॐ आत्मारामाय नमः। ॐ महाभागाय नमः। ॐ मातृमुक्तिविदायकाय नमः। ॐ विनताय नमः। ॐ विनुताय नमः। ॐ विप्राय नमः। ॐ मुनीन्द्राय नमः। ॐ पावकोज्ज्वलाय नमः। ॐ दर्शनादघसंहारिणे नमः। ॐ मौनेन स्वात्मबोधकाय नमः। ॐ हृच्छान्तिकरसान्निध्याय नमः। ॐ स्मरणाद्बन्धमोचकाय नमः। ॐ अन्तस्तिमिरचण्डांशवे नमः। ॐ संसारार्णवतारकाय नमः। ॐ शोणाद्रीशस्तुतिद्रष्ट्रे नमः। ॐ हार्दविद्याप्रकाशकाय नमः। ॐ अविच्युतनिजप्रज्ञाय नमः। ॐ नैसर्गिकमहातपसे नमः। ॐ कमण्डलुधराय नमः। ॐ शुभ्रकौपीनवसनाय नमः। ॐ गुहाय नमः। ॐ दण्डपाणये नमः। ॐ कृपापूर्णाय नमः। ॐ भवरोगभिषग्वराय नमः। ॐ स्कन्दाय नमः। ॐ देवतमाय नमः। ॐ अमर्त्याय नमः। ॐ सेनान्ये नमः। ॐ पुरुषोत्तमाय नमः। ॐ श्रीरमणभगवते नमः। श्रीरमणाष्टोत्तरशतनामपूजां समर्पयामि। यस्थाणोररुणाचलस्य पदयोः स्मृत्या जनिं प्राप्यत दिव्यानुग्रहसुप्रवाहविवशस्तादात्म्यभावं गतः हृन्निष्ठस्वगभीरनित्यतपसा लोकान् पुनास्येकराट् तस्मै श्रीरमणाय ते नम इदं लोकोत्तरज्योतिषे। नमो 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 रमण सदाशिवप्रभावरण नमो महर्षि नमो महर्षि नमो 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 रमण सदाशिवप्रभावरण नमो महर्षि नमो महर्षि दर्शनसुखमङ्गलमुखसकलजीवहितसम्मुख ब्रह्मसङ्गीये सदा तुष्ट सदा हृष्ट सदा शिवानन्दपुष्ट परममहर्षि ब्रह्मनिष्ठ समदर्शी नमो 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 रमण सदाशिव प्रभावरण नमो महर्षि नमो महर्षि ನಮ್ಮ ಮನವದೊಂದು ಕಾಡು ನೀನರಿತಿಹೆ ಅದರ ಜಾಡು ಹಿತವನರಿತು ನೀಡುತ್ತೆಮ್ಮ ಕೊರೆಯ ತಣಿಸಲೈ ಬೇಡಲೆಂದು ಬಂದ ನಾವು ನೋಡಿಯೇ ತಣಿವೆವಯ್ಯ ಮೋಡಿಗಾರನೇ ಹಿತವನುಡಿದು ಪೊರೆ ನಮ್ಮನು ಬ್ರಹ್ಮ ಸಂಘಿಯೇ. ನಮೋ 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 ರಮಣ ಸದಾಶಿವ ಪ್ರಭಾವರಣ ನಮೋ ಮಹರ್ಷಿ. ನಮೋ ಮಹರ್ಷಿ. ನಮೋ 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 ರಮಣ ಸದಾಶಿವ ಪ್ರಭಾವರಣ ನಮೋ ಮಹರ್ಷಿ. ನಮೋ ಮಹರ್ಷಿ. बोलो भगवान श्री रमण महर्षि की जय.
Namo Ramana Dileep.